everybody's ready to see Colorado take the field against number 17 TCU. TCU is a 20.5-point favorite. And let me just say one thing before I let you cook, Dave.
Okay.
Did you look at the 247 composite?
I was going to have this conversation with you, Ari. I read your column this morning. I literally wrote about this briefly yesterday in our newsletter thing with whether we read the Until Saturday newsletter. We need to have a talent composite conversation, Ari. I'm very excited for you to cook a little bit, but go on.
Well, the question that I have is you were so plugged in with the complete flip of that roster, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I knew Colorado was in the 60s last year in their total team composite
63.
talent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you would have just blindly asked me before they released the new one on Wednesday, where do you think Colorado would be after the flip? Considering how many players they took from Jackson State and, how hard it is to actually flip your roster, I certainly would not have guessed anywhere above 40. So when I actually saw the data of what Colorado is bringing from just a raw talent standpoint from the recruiting rankings,
mm-hmm.
I was shocked. And the number, and I don't know if you were shocked, but I was, and I think they are in the mid to low 30s, right? They're number 35.
35.
That is higher than I would have thought. What about you?
No, that's about where I thought they'd be. Here's the issue. It's a fascinating question, right? Because talent composite is a relatively reflective, reasonable metric of how much raw talent you have on your team. However, the question is, when you build your roster in the manner that Colorado has, and you get guys like, for every Alton McCaskill, 4-star guy that was productive at Houston, AAC freshman of the year, they missed last year, and a Dylan Edwards that they yanked from Notre Dame commit, and he's going to be a big-time player for them, and, Shador and Travis Hunter, for all those guys, there's a lot of Amari McNeils and guys that were 4-stars at other programs, 3-stars, that didn't really pan out and didn't really do anything. So that number is not surprising, maybe slightly inflated. But this is why, this whole experiment is so fascinating, because how real is that number? Because he's added a bunch of pieces that he probably couldn't get at Jackson State. Like I said, guys like Dylan Edwards, guys like a Alton McCaskill, some transfers, guys like a Jimmy Horn Jr., big time, they're going to have good skill position talent. But I think the deal with TCU will be, the lines all season. I have concerns about that. I think they're going to be able to actually rush the passer. I think they're going to be pretty good there. I don't know if they're going to be able to stop the run. I have major questions about their ability to protect Shador Sanders. But, Ari, we can get into the pick here. This is too many points. I think Colorado's going to struggle, but TCU is not exactly a world beater. I think people see 1-11 and all the controversy with CU, and they see national runner-up and forget that TCU was not one of the 4 best teams last year. They were a very good team. They're rebuilding a bunch. They've lost a ton of pieces. Max Duggan, Kendra Miller, Quentin Johnson, all those big pieces. I'm forgetting a DB with Trey Tomlinson. They lost him as well.
Yep.
Johnny Hodges is the biggest piece that they're bringing back, but they're rebuilding a ton. I think TCU is going to be good, but the gap between these two is not that big. I think TCU is 24, so I think
19.
TCU's 19. So
that's good.
That's
because guess what? Colorado ain't the only team that portals.
Yes, exactly. So
Sonny Dykes was portaling before Dion was.
But I'm. This is a fascinating game because in one sense, I think Colorado can score enough to keep this close. But in another sense, I was texting with a coach yesterday who reminded me that, hey, Joe Gillespie runs that 3-3-5 stack that torments this Baylor offense. The way that they do this stuff. I mean, if you remember West Virginia when they were running the 3-3 stack under Tony Gibson at West Virginia, they used to absolutely just make Baylor pull its hair out. The best Baylor teams, they'd go out there and score in the 20s, and they'd be like, "What is happening?" Because you can slow down their running game by bringing in a lot of rushers from weird angles. It confuses the offensive line, and this offensive line is not exactly the biggest piece of chemistry. So this is a super interesting game just because it is so unpredictable. It's not in my quad box of uncertainty because I knew we were going to spend a lot of time chatting about it, but it's certainly one of the 2 or 3 most interesting games of the week. And, for all, this is put up or shut up time for Colorado. So I'm curious where you guys land on this game. I think Colorado will keep this somewhat close.
Did you guys see the Fox commercial for this game? The one that is too legit to quit. It's entirely Deion in Colorado with like a 2-second clip of TCU that calls them a Big 12 power. This is the team that just played for the national championship game. And now they've got some bulletin board material going up against a team that was 1-11 last year. My biggest question about Colorado is if they are as small as they look in all their social media clips. This is not a team that looks very big. And to your point about the team talent ranking, there were 15 guys on that team who are former 5 or 4-star players. None of them are offensive linemen. One of them is a defensive lineman. So like that's where I am very concerned about Colorado. And you talk to the people on TCU, they feel good about this team. Like they were not supposed to do what they did last year, obviously. But you lose a couple of star players here and there on both sides of the ball. But I think they feel like their depth across the board is a lot better. And remember, Chandler Morris won the starting job last year over Max Duggan and was better than Max Duggan in practice throughout the season. They just couldn't bench Max Duggan because of what he was doing in all the games, becoming the Heisman runner-up. So I think TCU is weirdly a team we're not talking about and very much overlooking considering what they did last year. I've got TCU and taking the points and everything with that.
It's completely appropriate that both of you guys are on different ends of the spectrum because there really is zero understanding or insight of what to expect in this game. How do you actually know what to pick here? Like I would gamble on dice on the side of the street, but like I still have no idea how this is a bettable game. Like in one set of thought processes here, I could see Travis Hunter making some huge plays because he's legitimately going to be the best player on the field. I can see Shedeur Sanders making plays. I can see Colorado scoring. But on the other hand, I could just see TCU physically dominate this team in every aspect of the game. Like, I mean, I feel like Colorado keeping it within a touchdown isn't surprising, and TCU winning 59-0 isn't surprising. So the thing that I want to know,
come on now.
Well, if they don't have any lines and TCU gets after it, like you can't. I don't care how good your skill position players are.
I can see like 40. I can see like 51-17 plausibly.
All I know is
different.
Yeah,
yes, it is.
I don't know. I'm just trying to say that like a complete physical domination of this team. If you want to change the score around, like it doesn't change the point I'm trying to make. Like this. Like, can they get to the passer and can they stop people from getting to their passer? Like, do they have the bodies up front?
I think they can get to the passer. I think what they'll be able to run. I don't think they're gonna be able to stop the run. For a lot of the reasons that Chris talked about, I think they're gonna have a lot of issues there. And then protection. I mean, offensive line is built so on chemistry. We don't really know who's going to go out there for them. It was a huge loss for them to not have Tyler Brown. He might have been their best offensive lineman. I think he's supposed to be one of the strongest players on the team. But ultimately, I have to check and see who they eventually roll out. But there's a chance that Colorado rolls out 4 offensive linemen in their starting 5 that weren't there in the spring. And especially against this defense that is so confusing and requires so much communication and can hit you and stuff the run in ways that are very frustrating. I mean, Michigan dealt with this. Everybody said, "Oh, Michigan's going to be able to just pound them." Well, how did TCU slow down that running game? Because they come this 3-3 stack. I always compare it to. It's a little bit like the triple option of defense. Not a lot of people run it. It's very hard for quarterbacks because there's a lot of different reads, guys coming from different places, but it's even harder for offensive linemen to get your run fits and block the run the way you need to and create the holes because they bring rushers from weird angles that you're not used to. It's not a downhill sort of situation. So, that's it. That's my concern. I'm not even sure if it's going to be physical domination if Colorado gets run out of the gym on this game. I think it's going to be because the 33 stack just, these are going to be athletes that this scheme and this staff and this offense just have not played against.
Dave, what is largely the way that you think the game is going to play out, like in your head, based on what you know? Because probably there aren't a lot of people who have spent as much time writing, researching, talking, and thinking about Colorado. Like, what's your best guess of what they bring to the table and how this game is going to look?
Well, I think Colorado's secondary is really going to struggle because Travis Hunter didn't exactly set the world on fire as a corner last year. Part of that's injury, but they don't have anybody on his level. I think secondary, they're really going to struggle. and I don't know if they're going to be able to protect. If they can protect Shedeur, they're going to score points. Like, their receivers are good. Their receivers are an above-average group. You have Travis Hunter. You have Jimmy Horn. I think Dylan Edwards is at running back. I think he's a guy for all the press that Alton McCaskill's getting, and we'll see about his health. I think Dylan Edwards is actually going to be the guy at running back for them. But I think it comes down to, can you protect and can you prevent the big play on defense? Because you talk to people around Colorado, you watch enough practice, buddy. There have been some fireworks offensively, and some of that's the offense, but a lot of that is poor tackling and a lot of.
Give me a score.
How much of that is the 5'9" guys who look like walk-ons in those social media clips playing cornerback?
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, again, their depth chart is so amorphous. I'm gonna say something along the lines of like 41-24 TCU.
Okay.
I guess that would be a success for Colorado, right? Like, I don't know.
It's sort of like a we'll see. You didn't really.
That'd be a huge success.
Would it?
If they don't get embarrassed,
if they score points and don't get run out of the building, that's a huge success. We're going to be talking about Colorado more than we are now.
Listen. Everybody wants to say, "Oh, this team was 1-11." This is not a 1-11 team. Like, there's 10 guys left over from that team. You brought in a whole new team. It's not about coaching guys up or even improving a 1-11 team. They just changed the roster. It's something totally different. This team is not a 1-11 team. It's not a 10-1 team or whatever they finished at Jackson State. It's just a whole weird fantasy team of guys that they plucked out of the portal.
It sounds dysfunctional and terrible.
Well, Dion says he doesn't care about culture. He doesn't care if guys like each other.
Yeah, okay. You know the points. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to lay the points here. Like, I think that TCU is going to roll over them. I really do.
I do too.
So we'll see about that. But that, like, honestly speaking, like, I'm tempted to make TCU minus 20.5 the lock of the week. I just don't know who they're playing. Like, I don't know what it's going to be.